Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In fact, I am a very small man and I don't think that I deserve what all said about me by my friends and well-wishers. I don't think that I have done any great work, but I know some who have done very great work. If that is the only credit which I can claim to stand before the doyens of science and culture and technology here. If there is any sense in what I am going to speak, should only be credited to my mentor, philosopher and guide, Sadguru Shivananda Murthy ji. Because of my association with him for several years, maybe decades, might have stood me here before you to share some of the understandings that I could gather from my association with him. In fact, I am not a student of either ancient history or Sanskritic studies or any science or mathematics. I was just a student of early colonial history. If you have heard about me that I did some work in Mahabharata, Ramayana or Puranas or whatever it may be, that was basically the media construct. Out of love, I think they might have said so many things about me that I have both saved for cars and motorbikes in the ancient times and all that. I don't know they were existing at that time. But our national media has been so kind to me to credit all these studies to me. And if some of our friends are here, I would only appeal to them not to say something about what I have said, but what I meant. They ask something and they want to write what they wanted to write. So that was the problem with the media friends. But I would only appeal to them that we have come now to a community of scientists, mathematicians. When Professor Iyengar was mentioning that, is that history a fief of historians? Definitely not. This is what I said earlier, for which the papers commented in a different way. If such is the case, as we know that history is born some 3 centuries ago with regard to India, and my area of study also falls into this area, then I too got so many doubts whether what has been theorized during these 200 years about historical developments, was it really true when we look into our historical sources of ancient India? So that in fact brought me down to the times and looking here and there if there is any justification for the historical theories made in these 200 to 300 years. Because this is not the place, I don't have time. I can't take much of your time, but I would only say one small example with regard to the theory of Aryans or anything else. Our two of our honorable members of ICHR are also here present, Michelle Danino and also Dr. Srinivas. They have been working more on these historical sources on scientific lines. You might have heard them and you might have read them. One small theory that, this has come through a race and that race is a foreign race, has been the theory holding on to us since a long time. How was it constructed? Just think about it. Since the one who knows some of the European languages has come to India, and he came in contact with the Sanskrit language, and it was a great surprise to him that there are some important dhatus of these words which are correlated with the other languages. So I don't find fault with him because that was his experience. And I give credit to him because for the first time that he has brought that there is some linkage between the ancient language of India with the present current spoken languages of Europe. So see the time distance between the ancient Sanskrit with the modern spoken languages in Europe. But still he found number of similarities with the elements of language. And that is true, that is real, everybody can accept it, and I have no difference with that. But soon he jumped over that and said that all these languages must have had some mother. So the languages which have developed only after 14th and 15th century, those who have picked up some literatures after 15th century, he equated this with some thousands of years, if you agree or not, or at least 2000 years as you agree about Rigveda. So how could these two can be equated in time as contemporary languages? Sanskrit is still spoken, but it has a long pedigree. So he jumped out of enthusiasm that all these things are appearing similar, and so they could have been sister languages. And the next moment is a jump over that. It doesn't have any basis. That he found that this Sanskrit and the present English or French or Greek could have been the daughters of one mother language, which he doesn't know, which he could not name. And as today we are pondering over the Harappan language, and that language is also not known, but he had created that mother language and he named it as some Indo-European or something like that. And then he says that this language might have been spoken by some community, some race, and that race might be pastoral because they were moving, migrating to different places. So from where they have been migrating, there must be a central place to Europe and Asia. I request our friends from the media, can you find out that that particular language, which is an imagined language, the people speaking that language are also an imagined community, and they have been migrating to places because they were pastoral, and then since they have spread throughout Europe and Asia, they might have had a central place or a Central Asia region or some region. So there must have been a central place from where a new community was there, and they were speaking some language. That language has spread to different places. They have become dialects. So as far as Jones has said up to this level, that there are similarities between the languages, among the languages, between Europe and also Asia, that is true. Over and above that, they do not have any sort of evidence, either from the literature or from archaeology. No language is spoken in those times, and no community could be found out, and no place was identified as the place of this. But still we have been continuing this kind of thing in our textbooks, right from the primary, secondary, college, and also the universities, and we are also doing research in the sky, in the open sky. Number of studies have come on this. It is fossilized now. The idea is fossilized that there was an Aryan race which was living in somewhere outside India, and they were speaking some language which we do not know now, but out of that unknown language, several languages have come up. So my problem is that we are not able to find out anything that has been said with regard to certain theories that have been made during these 200 and 300 years. This, we are making as a theory unquestioned and unsuspected. We are not asking, because these intellectuals are not asking questions how this theory was built up. But if we suggest some alternative, some ideas from existing literature, then they are asking us to show some more. If some inscription is shown in Karnataka about Janamejaya, they say that it is fictitious. If you say some inscription is found in Ayodhya, then they say that has been carried from somewhere and brought it there. So these are the intellectual exercises with which we should be very careful of. So this is only one small thing that I told you as an example, because in the 200 to 300 years, what we take pride in making theories in history. So these theories are not strongly based in the evidence. So as scientists are also now interested in the ancient history and culture, I welcome them to see that if there is any theory is based on any particular evidence, then say that it is not based on the evidence, this is only a conjecture. So this conjecture has to be agreed by everybody, and then we should also ask the government, why are you continuing in your textbooks about these things which have been said that they have no evidence at all? How do you take it as a history and make it a history textbook? And why are you spoiling the minds of the young people? Because after 3 or 4 generations, nobody is going to question that. That is the problem. So now let us come to our intellectual tradition. So leave about the language and language-based communities and community-based the geographical identities. What we generally find, because this is a present seminar, is a wonderful seminar, because I am at a great loss because I am not going to continue here for 2 to 3 days, so that I could have heard so many experts speaking on the ancient literary traditions. What wealth we have in the traditions. What we have collected so far are only bubbles on the surface. We have not dived deep into the ocean. There are so many, what you call the diamonds and precious stones are there. But the problem with our literary tradition, where should we begin? Professor Iyengar has said the first question, if it is a tradition, where has it begun? Sir, that is the problem. Even if you speak of Vedas, Anantavai Veda, There are so many. From where it has come, we don't know. At least we should be true and honest to say that I do not know the beginning of it. Instead of saying like Brahma that I have seen that. So this is because from every story of the ancient times, you will have a teaching. You should know. If you don't know, I don't know, sir. Please tell me if you know. He may also say, I don't know. So okay, then become a Buddha. Go in search of it by yourself. Find out your own answer. You break your head with that answer. We are not worried. So this is the literary beginning of this literary tradition. It's very difficult to find out. And what the modern linguists and the archaeologists and historians have done is that they place Mahabharata to 800 BC. How can you place an oral literature, which simply called as orature, how can we date it? If it is any material thing is there, then you can send it to some examination and can find out, at least estimate its life. But if it is not a material thing, dating is impossible. We can't date anything. So this literary tradition, 800 years BC, may be about the earliest write-up or the reference about the earliest writing in the present manuscript. Based on these estimates, you can say 800 BC. So that is not the beginning of Mahabharata. That was not the date of Mahabharata. That was the date of the Mahabharata idea or the literature or some small stories like Mahabharata could have been dated up to 800 BC. That is about the story of Mahabharata, not about the event of Mahabharata. When you are going to an event is different. The storytelling is different. Story you might have heard, you might even go to Indonesia and find out a very beautiful theoretical expression in Krishnayana. There is a Krishnayana. They have linked both Ramayana and Krishna, Mahabharata. So these things are found. You can date them. You can say from 9th century AD, I think they have gone there, and this Krishnayana might have come after 9th century AD. So such things can be said. Story is different, event is different. Whether event has happened or not, that you have to question. The archaeologists should go. They should be guided with the local stories and traditions and find out the place where Mahabharata could have been occurred. So when we go to literary tradition, it is very difficult. We can very simply say that we do not know. That is a very good thing, instead of giving a date to that. If you look into Vedas, because we also know that Vedas, we do not know the beginning. But we have one reference, if you are very careful, right from the ancient times, even before Ramayana times, Veda was there. Veda was known. Veda was practiced. So Veda was discussed. Upanishads might have been there. I am not taking the dates. I am taking only the event of Ramayana, the event of Mahabharata. In the event of Ramayana, we have the reference that the sage Bharadwaja, because of his tapas, he wanted to bring down the entire knowledge. It is also said that he has taken 2 lifetimes from Lord Brahma and also attempted that. But still, he could not see the end of the Vedic knowledge. So then the Brahma himself, he said, Babu, why do you worry about this? Because this is enough, more than enough for you or for the world that you have drawn down. In the modern sense, you say download. So you have downloaded enough. This is enough for the entire creation of this earth. There's no problem, you stop it. So then he stopped it. So from there, when you come to Vyasa, Mahabharata times, by the time of Mahabharata, Vyasa finds that there was a lot of Veda that has been lost. Only 7% or 8% is remaining with us. And that classification has been done. 4 Vedas have not come in a chronological manner. Just if you imagine, there were no 3 Vedas or 4 Vedas, there were million Vedas. There were million. Each rishi spoke some Veda, which we might have heard, which might have inherited, which we might have lost. So these 4 Vedas cannot be placed chronologically as the students of history are doing now. We are giving a date, 800 BC, 2000 BC, or 1500 for Rig Veda. For other Vedas, yes, say 200 years or 300 years this way or that way. And by 800 years, I think the Mahabharata might have been written. So this language-based periodization, the literature story-based periodization is very unconvincing and confusing us. So these 4 Vedas have come at one time because it was ascribed to Vedavyasa. And these 4 Vedas periodization, it's very difficult that we are attempting to. So this is the reason why the scientists should come in our way for our help and see that linguists should sit together and also see to what extent which could be placed, which literary part could be placed to which period. So this periodization is a very big tussle, very big problem, which historians alone cannot do. And from this platform, I would say my personal view that, historians are only parasites. Historians are not originals, because historians have to depend on the material that is before them. They can only analyze the material, add a little interpretation to it, not adding conjectures. So a historian cannot give an original idea unless there is an original source is found. So similarly, we take help from the different scientists pursuing different branches of science, and then all these things could be brought at one place, and then a compendium has to be prepared, and then based on that, I think we should be able to do some history, a near objective history, because true objective history is not possible. A near objective history could be attempted. But the India situation has been so precarious that, till 1947, we had seen the development of 2 streams of historiography. One, the colonial historiography has been emerging, and as a corollary to that, as a defensive technique, the nationalist historiography has come. Both of them have created enough problems for our studies. So these 2 streams have developed till 1947, and by 1947, take from 1930 onwards, the leftist historiography has also entered as a 3rd stream. And after 1947, particularly after 1950, and more precisely from 1970, the leftist historiography has taken over the entire history. And they say professional historians should do this. What is this professionalism? The one who is finding livelihood in teaching or writing history should deal with history. What about the other intellectuals? What is the Vedic strength, or what you call the scholarship for any historian working on ancient history? Because most of them are not well acquainted with the ancient languages, Pali, Prakrit, and Sanskrit. These languages are not known to us for the ancient historians, most of them. Even for reading the epigraphs, we should have sufficient language proficiency. This we don't have. The historian should accept that they have so many limitations. So with these limitations, we only try to understand what was there in the beginning, or in the middle, or at the end, or what we are today. So these developments based on this, and we start taking 1 or 2 examples and making theories, because it has become a fashion that, in history also theories would work. How can the theories would work in history about the historical development? What happens after what? Can you simply say that there used to be some 4 or 5 great kings, and after that the dynasty would last. Can you make this theory? If you take this theory acceptable, Ikshvakus were there during the Rama's time. That was Ikshvaku if you do not accept from Vaivashvan. But at least you can know about Rama and this thing. And these Ikshvakus were there till Buddha's time, because Siddhartha was also belonging to one of the sects of the Ikshvakus. And when you come back to 2nd century, 4th century AD, in Andhra region, Ikshvakus ruled. So this lineage has been there, if you take it from the beginning to the almost 3rd, 4th century AD. So such rulers were there, such dynasties were there, but you cannot just say because you could find out only 3 great kings in Mauryans, Chandragupta, Bindusara or Ashoka, and say after the 3 or 4 generations the dynasty would die down. Such theories cannot be made. You cannot say that after socialism there would be a sort of a state, a stateless society or stateless governance. How can it be possible? Either the Marxist theories based on the historical truths of the ancient times, projecting them for the future, I don't think how can they are going to be proving true. So history is not a predictive science. History would only help you to understand how the humankind has been proceeding so far. So what would be the next step? May be guided from the future, from the present. So these things are there, these developments have to be taken. Only generally when we say about the dharma, then you can say that dharma would be declining for some time, and again, it would be growing, and it may come up to some perfect stage. And again, it doesn't stay at perfection, it has to go down. The one who has won the gold medal may lose the second time, but he continues to win gold medal 2 times, 3 times, okay. 4th time, can you do that? So nobody can stand at the top because this has to go down. So this is something like a hyperbole. So how much wide the hyperbole is of a particular community, of a particular culture, that of course you can write a graph. You can use the mathematical science, write a graph for that. So see, these tools, the scientific tools and scientific instruments could be used in the study of humankind, right from the ancient times to the present day, and let us give some meaningful history to the people. And another most important thing is, political history is not exactly the history of mankind. As Professor Iyengar has said, we have so many other things. Let us not quarrel here, because politics would always take you to clashes. It's not that. No, as an intellectual exercise, we can do what greater help we can take from for the present scientific development from the ancient knowledge. That knowledge is the knowledge of the human beings, the entire world, entire humanity. And the benefit, whatever it gives, should go to entire humanity. We are not taking any country pride for that, but we take pride in the knowledge for which ours is the motherland. So that way, we should love our motherland, and we should love our knowledge, the stores of knowledge that we have, and everybody can use it, anybody can work on it, and anybody can do research in these areas and bring out something good for the people who are enjoying this beautiful and purposeful life. So these are some few ideas, academic ideas and scientific ideas, but still I wanted to share these ideas with you, and I am also at a great loss that I am missing most of the experts who are going to speak on these major topics. And I thank Professor Iyengar and Professor Rajan and Sundararajan, and also the Jain scientist Subrayal Garu. All become scientists because if we can only develop scientific temper, accept if my theory is not correct, I should be very liberal in accepting that I have done wrong, I have done a mistake. So the theories that have been made in 200 to 300 years may not prove the knowledge that has been sustaining with us for over thousands of years. So have pride in this. There must be something good and wealth in the ancient systems, and these literary or knowledge systems that we have inherited from our elders. We should be thankful to them, and we should look anything. You can do any research, but with a positive outlook, not with a negative, not to disprove anything. You only wait if something comes out of your research. And the hypothetical research would always lead to prove your own hypothesis. I don't find any particular hypothesis, any researcher who has disproved his own hypothesis. Could you find anybody? I don't know about the historians or about the scientists who could dare enough to do that. If they could do that, they are the real researchers. So hypothetical conjectures should not be efforted. We should not make an effort to prove such hypothetical conjectures. So we should only keep all these sources with us, try to collect so many sources and find out whether something could be emerging out of our study, about emerging out of our own research. So this should be the scientific temper, and this scientific temper I wish a historian like me should imbibe from the scientists, the great scientists like you. Thank you very much. Thank you.